back in the hills of old Vermont. And the orchard on the hill, I think I see it still, way back in the hills of old Vermont. For tonight I long to be where the catamount run free and the rattlesnake can lie out in the sun, near the voices of the loons when the apple blossoms bloom, way back in the hills of old Vermont. There used to be a barn near the old fishing pond, way back in the hills of old Vermont. So many fields of hay have now all gone away, way back in the hills of old Vermont. Oh, tonight I long to be where the catamount run free and the rattlesnake can lie out in the sun, near the voices of the loons when the apple blossoms bloom, way back in the hills of old Vermont. Well, everything has changed, nothing stays the same, way back in the hills of old Vermont. Like that old brown panther's roar, you won't hear that no more, way back in the hills of old Vermont. Oh, tonight I long to be where the catamount run free and the rattlesnake can lie out in the sun, near the voices of the loons when the apple blossoms bloom, way back in the hills of old Vermont. But when the rains came down and flooded many towns, way back in the hills of old Vermont, all the neighbors lent a hand for the loving of the land, way back in the hills of old Vermont. For tonight I long to be where the catamount run free and the rattlesnake can lie out in the sun, near the voices of the loons when the apple blossoms bloom, way back in the hills of old Vermont. Well, how you doing? This is Rik Palieri right here in the hills of old Vermont, and welcoming you to another Songs and Stories for Hard-Hitting Times. And it's good to see Rhonda Scott Merrick is over here, and my wife Mariana is there. And oh, hey, how you doing? It's good to see some friends here. And it's one of those kind of moments where like for us, for both Mariana and I, we both got the vaccine a while ago, and tomorrow, hey, Al Poindexter is here, and we're kind of like you. Many of you, we're all kind of looking forward to this kind of new normal thing, and we really don't know what that new normal is going to be. I certainly don't. But we're hoping for it. We're hoping to be able to do some traveling and get to see people that we haven't seen in a long time. And I thought I'm gonna pick up the banjo here, see if it still wants to be in tune or what, and play an old favorite of mine. Don't let your deal go down. Don't let your deal go down. Don't let your deal go down till that last old dollar is gone. I've been all around this whole wide world, from New York to Tennessee, and any old place I hang this hat seems like dear home to me. Oh, don't let your deal go down. Don't let your deal go down. Don't let your deal go down. banjo, it's all that I own. $1 is all I've saved. Ain't gonna take anything from this old wicked world. Take nothing to my grave. Oh, don't let your deal go down. Don't let your deal go down. Don't let your deal go down till that last old dollar is gone on. Well, who's gonna shoot those pretty little feet? Who's gonna glove your hands? Who's gonna kiss those red ruby lips when I'm in a foreign land? Oh, don't let your deal go down. Don't let your deal go down. Don't let your deal go down till that last old dollar is gone. One more time. Don't let your deal go down. Don't let your deal go down. Don't let your deal go down till that last old dollar is gone. Don't let your deal go down. One of those old favorite tunes that we all love to play. And hey, Harriet Hart's here. Yeah, all right. It's great to see everybody. Any old place I hang my hat is home. That is correct. I mean, these days it's really been home that I've hung this hat, but many a time been out on the road. And, wherever I was, I tried to make it seem like home. And I brought another instrument here. I think I've played this before on here. Dolina. Well, Dolina's upstairs right now, but I'm sure that she'll probably come down and bother me. This is a Native American flute, one of those contemporary. This is a really contemporary one because it certainly wasn't a traditional type of flute. You know, it was interesting because Kevin Locke, who I learned flute from, he was one of those pioneers of keeping the old tradition alive. And he was going around and learning from the elders all the traditional songs. And one of the things when he was teaching me how to play, he was talking about the idea that it's important that, especially if you're not from that culture, that you don't really play those old songs because it's, they're owned by different folks. And, I think that in those early days, the flutes were all tuned in whatever way that the maker made them. They were not really all standardized like they are today. But I would say, probably since the 90s, maybe before that, maybe in the 80s, a lot of flute makers started really using this instrument and making it their own. They took the kind of idea of the Native American flute, and they changed it. And this is a good example of, this is a flute that was made by Island Ray down in Florida. And he gifted me this flute. This is a really cool flute. It's made out of hurricane wood. It's like it's wood that came down in a hurricane it looks like a big hunk of cedar. And hard though, very hard. And as you notice, what you notice about this, it has two different holes here, two ducts, more like a lot of like Romanian and Hungarian pipes, flutes. They have these double channels so that you have one channel where you're playing the notes, like that. And then you have this other one that's just a drone, almost like a bagpipe. You hear it? right, Nikolai. Oh, it's great to see you here. Love the flute. Well, you get that idea of how you can really interpret a melody using a traditional kind of technique. And that's what, when I learned how to play the flute, I was out on the Mobridge reservation when I met with Kevin Locke. And he invited me into a sweat lodge ceremony with him and his family, with his mom and some other folks from the community. And we sat in there and we prayed together. And when his family left, he was telling me a little bit about the tradition about the flute and how it was important for me to take the techniques that he was showing me, but to create my own music. And that's what I've done, is try to create music that I was feeling by utilizing this Native American flute. So, like I said, this flute is from Island Ray. And so he's a great flute maker down in Florida. So you might want to look Island Ray up. He makes some wonderful flutes. And so I thought that I was trying to think of, what am I going to do today? I don't know. I was thinking about, let's see. Now, you know this song. I'm going fishing all the time. Bet you're going fishing too. Bet your wife, your sweet wife, gonna catch more fish than you. Sing any fish bites if you got good bait. Here's a little tip I would like to relate. Any fish bites if you got good bait. Well, I'm a-going fishing. Yes, I'm going fishing. Little baby going fishing too. Little baby brother drive me out of my mind. He said, can I go fishing with you? So I took him on down to my favorite fishing hole. You think that brother mine did do? He caught a 7-pound catfish on the bottom. Yes, he got him. Then he took him home to mama. He was real gone with his line and his pole. He was going fishing. Yes, he's going fishing. Little baby going fishing too. So I was down in Florida, and I was visiting with my family, and my brother Dave says, Rick, let's go fishing. Now I knew that my father had this special pole that he really liked with a Garcia reel, and I didn't have a fishing pole. And Dave thought, well, Dad won't mind if we borrowed his pole just for this one trip. So we kind of took the pole and we went down right near it was the river there, the St. John's River. And we're fishing there for a while, and everything was going well. And then, for some reason, my brother, he asked to borrow that special pole, and he cast way out, and he lost balance, and the pole, it hit the concrete and rolled right off into the deep water. And there was nothing we could do. I mean, the water was too deep. Dave just dove down in the water, and he's looking for that pole, because we knew that this was not going to be a good thing when we got home with no fishing pole. Of course, we didn't tell my father that we borrowed his fishing pole, which made it kind of even more difficult. So, I was wondering what we're going to do, and Dave came up with the idea, well, let's not tell him, and we'll just go ahead and we'll buy another fishing pole just like that, and maybe he won't know the difference. Now, folks, that's not a good thing, because it always catches up with you. And what happened was, sure enough, a few days later, my father said, hey, let's go fishing. And he started looking around, and he's looking around for his fishing pole. And he can't find it. He says, where's my fishing pole? It's my favorite fishing pole. And I can't find it. We said, well, I don't know, maybe you misplaced it somewhere. Well, Dave had another fishing pole, so we had enough fishing poles to go, and we went right back to that same spot, you know. So we went right back there, and my father was casting out. He was casting, and we weren't catching much, and then he cast way out into that bay, and he got a bite. I mean, he got a big bite, and his pole started bending over backwards like this, you know? You know when you got something really big, it starts a commotion. A whole bunch of people started stopping what they were doing, and they were all looking to see, what did this guy catch? And he reeled it in and reeled it in, and sure enough, out of the water came this huge horseshoe crab. In fact, there were 2 huge horseshoe crabs, and they were entangled on, guess what? A fishing pole. Now, it wasn't just any fishing pole. It was my father's fishing pole. Now, he's looking at it and he goes, boy, this looks just like my pole. I can't believe it. I can't wait to get home and pull my pole out, and look at that, I've got another pole just like my pole. Well, of course, Dave and I, we just couldn't contain ourselves any longer, and we had to admit to what happened. And my father said, I can't believe it. He goes, I caught my own fishing pole. What do you think about that? True story. I'm a-going fishing all the time. Bet you're going fishing too. Bet your life, your sweet wife gonna catch more fish than you. Sing any fish bites if you got good bait. Here's a little tip I would like to relate. Any fish bites if you got good bait. Well, I'm a-going fishing. Yes, I'm going fishing. Little baby going fishing too. We'll put 'em in the pot, put 'em in the pan, cook 'em till they're nice and brown. Get yourself a batch of buttermilk cookies, mama, then you put the sucker on the table, chop 'em on down. Sing any fish bites if you got good bait. Here's a little tip I would like to relate. Any fish bites if you got good bait. Well, I'm a-going fishing. Yes, I'm going fishing. Little baby going fishing too. Well, I'm a-going fishing. Yes, I'm going fishing. Little baby going fishing too. Old fishing blues. Old traditional song. Well, another song that I thought that I would do, as we're talking about, take the old Vega here, songs that really, one of the first, you know, we did a ballad, and a ballad from over in a British ballad from the Child Ballads last time about Barbara Allen, and this time I thought I'd sing you an American ballad. This is a real American ballad, you know, and those folks, I know there's a lot of folkies on here that I can see here. I'm seeing some people over here. my wife's going, yay, the fishing story, the fishing pole story. Well, you know, this song here, let's see, is an American ballad, and ballads tell stories. That's, you know, the main thing about a ballad. And this is an American, you know, ballad because it happened right here. It's a true story, and I thought that I'd share it with you. Now I have the words over here because I haven't sung all the words, and I wanted to share this story with you. Jesse James was a lad. He killed many a man. He robbed that Glendale train. Well, he stole from the rich and he gave to the poor. He had a hand and a heart and a brain. Oh, Jesse had a life. He mourned. What? Let's get that right. Oh, Jesse had a wife. He mourned for his life. 3 children, they were brave. But that dirty little coward that shot Mr. Howard had laid Jesse James in his grave. It was robbed Robert Ford, that dirty little coward. I wonder how he does feel. For he ate of Jesse's bread, he slept in Jesse's bed, then he laid poor Jesse in his grave. Oh, Jesse had a wife who mourned for his life. 3 children, they were brave. But that dirty little coward that shot Mr. Howard had laid poor Jesse in his grave. Jesse James was a man, a friend to the poor. He never see a man suffer pain. And with his brother Frank, they robbed the Chicago bank, and he stopped that Glendale train. Oh, Jesse had a wife who mourned for his life. 3 children, they were brave. But that dirty little coward that shot Mr. Howard had laid poor Jesse in his grave. It was on a Wednesday night, the moon was shining bright, that they robbed the Glendale train. And the people, they did say, from many miles away, it was robbed by Frank and Jesse James. Oh, Jesse had a wife to mourn for his life. 3 children, they were brave. But that dirty little coward that shot Mr. Howard had laid poor Jesse in his grave. They went to a crossing not too far from there, and there they did the same. With the agent on his knees, he delivered up the keys to the outlaws, Frank and Jesse James. Oh, Jesse had a wife to mourn for his life. 3 children, they were brave. But that dirty little coward that shot Mr. Howard had laid poor Jesse in his grave. It was on a Saturday night, and Jesse was at home, talking with his family brave. Robert Ford came in like a thief Robert Ford came along like a thief in the night, and he laid poor Jesse in his grave. Well, the people held their breath when they heard of Jesse's death, and they wondered how he ever came to die. It was one of his gangs called Little Robert Ford who shot poor Jesse on the sly. Oh, Jesse had a wife to mourn for his life. 3 children, they were brave. But that dirty little coward that shot Mr. Howard had laid poor Jesse in his grave. Jesse went to his rest with his hand upon his breast. The devil will be upon his knee. He was born one day in the county of Clay, and he came from a solitary race. Poor Jesse had a wife to mourn for his life. 3 children, they were brave. But that dirty little coward that shot Mr. Howard had laid poor Jesse in his grave. This song was made up by Billy Gasclay as soon as the news did arrive. He said there was no man with the law in his hand could take Jesse James when alive. Poor Jesse had a wife to mourn for his life. 3 children, they were brave. But that dirty little coward that shot Mr. Howard had laid poor Jesse in his grave. So that's that whole ballad. I sang all the verses that I had here, and it really tells that whole story about Frank and Jesse James. And the thing is, that you get from this story is that the law couldn't track him down. It had to be one of his own gang who turned against him, and did it in such a cowardly way. Jesse James was on a chair, hanging a picture on the wall when Robert Ford shot him and killed him in St. Joe, Missouri. And yeah, and you can, once the roads are free to travel again, you could go out there to that house of Jesse James and relive some of that history. And that's the whole thing about the West. There's not as much really left behind from the old West. A lot of the places are facsimiles because, like Deadwood, burnt down. There may be a few buildings that were left, but a lot of it is reconstructed. And that's what we have is a lot of things that, that history is lost. And just like that history of the Native American flute would be lost if people like Kevin Locke didn't go around and make sure that they learned the songs. Now, one of the things that Pete Seeger would always say to me, I'd sing him one of my new songs, and he would smile or something, but he'd go, "Rick, you're still singing the old songs, aren't you?" He says, "We got to keep the old songs alive." And I said, "Yes, Pete, I'm trying to sing the old songs too." And that's the whole thing. That all of you, if you're a singer-songwriter, and Utah Phillips used to talk about this a lot, throw in a traditional song in your set. Throw in one of those songs. It doesn't have to be a popular song or anything, but throw something in, and you'll be surprised that people might gravitate to hearing something familiar like that. Some of these songs, like if I was, in performance trying to do Jesse James, I probably wouldn't sing all those verses. You don't really need to tell the whole story. You can find some verses and leave the others behind. Well, I think I'm going to play a little bit of banjo. We're almost out of time now. And that was the other thing that recently that I kind of, sometimes when we're learning an instrument, we try a lot of different things, and we get influenced by different people, and sometimes when that happens, we try and learn a new technique, which is good if it works. It's not so good when it don't work, and that was happening to me. I had tried to learn this technique and change my hand position, and I did it so long that I didn't even realize that I was doing that, but I knew that it wasn't the same anymore. My hand was off balance, and it seemed like it kept missing notes, and it wasn't fast. I used to be able to play fast. Now, I know I'm old now. I can't play as fast as I used to, but, what I found out was I learned from the old Pete Seeger book. And the way that I learned how to play what we called frailing back then was I would take one finger, I used my middle finger to pick with, and I would brace it with my thumb. So when I went to hit the string, instead of just hitting it without any support, I'd use that, And to do the new style, I wasn't doing that anymore. I was just banging on it like this, and I realized that it was really something was wrong. I couldn't figure it out, so I decided to be like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I said, well, let's revisit, and this is the other thing. Like any of you people or musicians, it's kind of good sometimes you have to step back to go forward. And it's good to look at, go back to some of those instruction books and try to play one of those old pieces that you learned years ago. In many cases, you'll find out that you missed something. You might have missed a note here or there, or you missed this detail or that, or you didn't have it together quite yet. And or if you do and you can play it perfectly, then you can congratulate yourself for remembering it or how you changed it. But it's kind of good to go back and revisit some of those old tunes. Wish I was a June apple sitting on a tree. Every time a tulip pie, she'd take a bite of me. It's peaches in the summertime, apples in the fall. I can't have the one I love, won't have none at all. No. I had no banjo, strings are made of twine. The only song it would play, wish that guy was mine. I wish I was a June apple sitting on a tree. Every time a tulip pie, she'd take a bite of me. I was an apple sitting on a tree. Every time a tulip pie, take a bite of me, take a bite. I wish I was an apple sitting on a tree. Every time a tulip pie, she'd take a bite of me. Well, there you go. And Dolene is right here beside me. Dolene, you want to come over here and say hello? Come here. Come here. Everybody want to see you. All right. Where are you? There it is. So this is the tail end of the show, folks. So I hope you had a good time. Right, Dolena? And we'll see you again next week right here at the same time. We'll try to learn some other tune that haven't sung in a long time, and we'll be right back here again with songs and stories for hard-hitting times. You look at that girl. All right, everybody, have a great week. See you next week. Bye-bye.